Hey, have you ever been sitting in your room and got to thinking, gee, I wonder which species of crab is most commonly eaten around the world? Well, lucky for you, I have answers. Metacarcinus magister, more commonly known as the Dungeness crab, is a rather average-sized crab with a diameter of up to 10 inches. Their habitat ranges from the Pacific coast of Alaska to about Santa Barbara, and they are the most common crab in California. They prefer to live in sandy or muddy substrates in coastal waters, often being found in eelgrass beds, and their heavy claws allow them to eat mussels, oysters, clams, shrimp, and worms. Strangely, these crabs have a much smaller leg-to-body ratio than your average edible crab. But upon starting my research at about 7:18 last night, I quickly realized that this doesn't stop anybody from partaking in this delicacy. A quick Bing search returned what I hoped would be a list of informational videos about this lovely creature, but instead I was hit with garlic butter crab legs. How to pick a Dungeness crab like a pro. How much crab do you think I can eat? Dungeness crab cooked alive! Exclamation mark, and a multitude of other videos along the same idea. So, when did people get so stoked on Dungeness crabs, you may ask? Well, the Native Americans had been picking them off the beaches for millennia by the time the first major fishery started in San Francisco, which was in 1848 when fishermen discovered their abundance and delectable taste. To catch Dungeness crabs, fishermen set baited traps, often called pots, and by the turn of the century, commercial harvesting of Dungeness crabs covered their entire habitat range. It was about this time in 1895 when the State Board of Fish Commissioners, which was the precursor to California's Fish and Game Commission, realized that most people had this girl's mindset, prompting them to submit a report to the California state legislature, basically saying, hey, so I know we're all stoked on these crabs right now, but this area used to have about 100 of them, and now it has 10, so crazy thought, but would you be opposed if we do something about it? And the legislator was like, no way. So then the commission suggested, yeah, well, okay, so why don't we prohibit fishing in these critical areas, and then we don't allow commercial fishermen to harvest crabs in the northern range from July 16th to November 30th, and then we do the same thing for the south, except it's July 1st to November 14th. Oh, and then we're also going to create an off-season for recreational crabbing as well. Let's say July 30th to November 1st in the north, and then July 1st to the first Friday of November in the south. I think that should give crabs a chance to repopulate before we go collect them, since they ought to mate and molt at that time. And also, maybe we shouldn't allow people to keep baby crabs, say these ones right here under 6 inches. Then the legislator was like, okay, cool. And that was a good thing. So then, luckily, these simple regulations brought the populations back to full strength. However, the Dungeness crab would see another noticeable dip in population in the 1970s. In response to this, California initiated the Dungeness Crab Research Program, which studied the ecology of the Dungeness crabs, including their life stages, larval timing, and juvenile growth rates. And as it turns out, changing ocean conditions related to the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, various offshoots of climate change, and harmful algal blooms have a rather large impact on Dungeness crab populations, especially when it comes to larval dispersal timing. The research program took this information and advised the state to upkeep monitoring of Dungeness crab populations so that they can be preserved at times of high adversity, such as hypoxic conditions during a large algal bloom. Other rules have been added to the list, such as only being able to keep males and adjusting the pore size of the traps to allow undersized crabs to escape. It's estimated that since 1970, about 2/3 of the total legal Dungeness crab population is caught annually, but strict size requirements ensure that the breeding population stays healthy. And by all measurable standards, the population is healthy. Catch rates show that the population of Dungeness crabs have increased 500% in California since 2000 and have remained stable elsewhere. So honestly, you do you, I guess. But dude, not you. That's literally never okay. Everything comes with its drawbacks though. Even a free puppy is accompanied by its share of surprises. But when it comes to Dungeness fisheries, bycatch in the pots is usually considered negligible. But the lines connecting the pots to the surface buoys are more problematic, on the other hand. In Washington, Oregon, and California, humpback whales are known to have a knack for getting tangled in the rope. In California specifically, orcas, blue whales, and leatherback sea turtles have also been known to do this job pretty well. As crabbing has increased over the past few decades, entanglement incidents have also increased, though the more narrow windows for crabbing season helps the number of incidents be less severe than they could otherwise be. Ghost nets are also a big problem, as 10 to 20% of fishing gear used for the Dungeness crab harvest are lost each year to God knows where and to do God knows what. Nevertheless, there are some ways to mitigate these consequences. Ropeless pot systems allow fishermen to activate inflation devices on the traps, allowing them to float to the surface when it's time. Smart buoys allow fishing gear to be tracked so that they know when a whale is dragging it or when a trap comes loose. Lastly, weak inserts could allow the rope to break if a specific force is applied perpendicular to the line. This would hopefully give anything that runs into the rope the ability to free itself. Overall, the Dungeness crab fishery is very healthy thanks to ongoing population surveys, sustainable harvesting practices, and legislative action. These crabs play an important role in coastal economies as tens of millions of dollars are brought in, employing tens of thousands of people every year. Still, some concerns exist for the fate of the future population, as recent studies show that ocean acidification may be impacting larvae survival. And it doesn't help that us humans continue to develop the coast and build our homes on critical habitat. Even still, as long as the populations are managed as they are now, I believe we should be able to deal with issues as they present themselves. And if you'd like to know how to do your part to keep this fishery lively and healthy, I've got a few tips. Number 1 is to make sure to vote for officials that hold the same sentiments. Number 2 would be to consider buying from fisheries with Marine Stewardship Council certification, like the iconic Oregon Dungeness crab fishery. And while number 3 won't necessarily increase the population of this crab, it's important to consider that just because the experience of pain in crabs isn't proven, that doesn't mean you should treat them as if they don't experience it at all. There are ethical ways to kill a crab just before you cook it. Lastly, check out the Dungeness Crab Festival held in Port Angeles, Washington every fall. Bye!